to kiss a lot of sponsor butt. You know why? Because most sponsors want not just to put money into it and get money out of it. They quite like the idea they can have creative input.
But not many of them would have said, we want to call your main character this. And he would have gone, I would have thought you would have had all that done before he presented the show to them.
Absolutely not. Otherwise, it was them that probably changed the main character because they didn't think he was strong enough or Aryan enough.
But if you're saying that the reason that it's linked to the KKK is the names, does that mean that Dad's Army was funded by the KKK? Because they had a pike.
No, but that was public service broadcasting, wasn't it? It was made by the BBC, so that's rather where your argument falls over.
And it's not much of an argument, really.
And it wasn't much of an argument.
I don't think it had any legs at all. In fact, it was practically a single-cell argument, wasn't it?
It's quite funny, though, is Steve here, Steve Turner, mailed exactly the same thing in a couple of minutes ago, asking whether or not Pike from Dad's Army was with the KKK.
It was mentioned in the On the Wireless chat room as well. And they don't like it up, and you know.
Yeah. Well, we got something significant here, I think. There's no doubt about it. My instincts for these things are good. I was there with Watergate, you know, in the third week, and I'm with this one. I think there's something strong here. And I'm not saying that Star Trek had a right-wing or racist agenda, but what I do believe is that we have another example of people with money and influence wanting to have some kind of an input into what is otherwise nothing more or less than a creative venture. And
but I mean, the mob are a perfect example. They wanted a big influence in politics in America in the 60s. They went down that road rather than going for television, so there may well be something in it. I don't personally see enough evidence. It's just what you're saying is it's a lot of coincidence and a lot of things.
Well, I haven't started yet. What I've started with is the first piece of evidence that is impossible to explain in any way other than it is a massive, massive, ludicrous coincidence. Let's be absolutely clear about this. Pike, Albert Pike, General Albert Pike, is so far and away head and shoulders and torso and hips above any other KKK individual as a hero of the organisation. And Kirk is quite simply the most powerful word, single word, to all the senior organisers in the KKK. Kirk is the word. They called it the Ku Klux Kirk to begin with. And if you go on the websites now, if you go on the internet and you look up, put in Kirk KKK, and you will find just a wealth of organisations who at this moment are functioning. Matt, you've found some.
I've got it, yeah. I put Captain Kirk, Captain Pike, KKK into Google, and it's just come up with, and I can't believe it, a site that would seem to be promoting the active sort of
recruitment.
Ku Klux Klan recruitment. There's sign-up fees. There's, you know, General Albert Pike, CSA, Confederate States Army officer, the Grand Dragon for the state of Arkansas, commander of Arkansas realm of the KKK, wrote the KKK poem Death Brigade, also a prominent man in Freemasonry.
That's interesting. And what have you got there, Stuart? Because that's
the Celtic Kirk Knights of the Ku Klux Klan.
That's right, yeah.
And these organisations, gentlemen, they're all over the internet. They're recruiting now. And what's the key word there that we haven't come across before in connection with the Ku Klux Klan? Kirk. K-I-R-K.
They've even updated their symbol to a Ku Klux Klan. I can't say the words properly. Ku Klux Klan guy with what looks to be an automatic machine gun behind an oval version of the Confederate flag.
But the interesting thing is that the sources that you're using come from the internet, where, no disrespect, there are a lot of people out there with some very strange views, and the internet is where they make them, which is where their playground is.
Let's go.
So
there.
I think
okay,
you could
yeah, you made your point. You made your point. Let's go there. No, you made your point. Let's go there. I'm a journalist.
Sure.
Part of my job is to make a judgment about the authenticity of material, information. Okay, before you pass it on to the reader as it was then, or the listener, or the viewer as it became in my case. All right. When I look at something on the internet, I want to see the first-hand evidence, not just some cobbled-together text by some kid in his bedroom in Alabama. Okay? Before I decided that Albert Pike was indeed an active KKK member, I looked for actual evidence. Now, you do this yourself. Do this yourself if you believe that there's something in your argument that the internet and material on it is not to be trusted.
Not always to be trusted. I'd say not all of it.
No, fine. Fine. Then go in and have a look at Albert Pike and there's video footage of the Freemasonry Museum, the Scottish Freemasonry Museum in Washington. Okay, you can see it with your own eyes and see that the person the one individual who is celebrated in that shrine is Albert Pike. And when you look at video pictures of the plinth beneath his statue, you know that you are able to say that there is an Albert Pike, and he is an extremely important figure in the history of American Kirk, Klansmen, and Freemasonry. And if you want to find out about the book that he wrote, which is The Defining Dogma of Freemasonry in the United States, Scottish Freemasonry, there is on the website an image of that actual book. And I don't believe that hoaxers, and there are plenty, go to that kind of trouble and those kind of lengths in order to fabricate some bollocks. And I was prepared to believe it, based on my professional judgment and training and learning and experience. Okay, so I believe that Albert Pike is what I've said he is. And I believe that Kirk is a surprisingly significant name in the KKK in the United States of America and possibly around the world. And it's a Scottish word, of course, as is clan. And Matt was just looking at the flag behind the Kirk Klansman. That's right, and he described it as the...
Well, it's basically a Ku Klux Klan member in full dress with what looks to be an automatic machine gun behind a Confederate flag, which has been put in an oval shape. I've just actually read something a second ago, said Albert Pike actually predicted 3 world wars.
Yeah, we could get onto that. He's alleged to have predicted...
I presume that comes from his
He was a Satanist. No, he was a Satanist who was alleged to have also had...
I have to say that what you've done is it's made me think. I'm not sure I believe you, but you've made me think.
That'll do for me. Cheers, mate.
And that I think is what you're...
I'm always trying to do that. Thank you.
I'll be looking forward to listening to the rest.
Appreciate that. There's a good Skyper.
He's also written hymns to the gods and other poems, and if you marry outside your faith.
Let's just, whilst we're about it, I've got tons of stuff which connects the Confederacy, slavery, the KKK, Philip Morris and Marlboro cigarettes to Star Trek. But Matt, you mentioned the flag, the Confederate flag.
That's right, yeah.
Just describe the Confederate flag.
Well, I mean, we can... We could probably get it up on webcam.
Well, in your own words, what's the key feature of the Confederate flag?
Well, I'm just bringing it back up on my...
It's a cross, but what sort of a cross is it?
Well, I don't know.
It's a cross that goes from corner to corner rather than up to down.
Yeah, from corner to corner.
That's called a saltire.
Right. I'm not too up on my flags.
Nor am I. But there is only one other national flag that is a saltire. And you've got to remember that Pike was openly the #1 figure in the American Scottish Freemasonry organisation, which was a gigantic organisation with enormous political and financial control.
Still is.
Scottish, remember? So guess what the other national flag is that also is based on the saltire? Scotland. The flag of St Andrews, the cross of St Andrews. The cross, by the way, in which it's believed that St Andrew was crucified, which is particularly uncomfortable for him because he not only was spread-armed, but spread, his legs as well. Wow.